Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Front Porch Podcast, where we have intimate intergenerational conversations to connect, to build, and absolutely learn from each other. I am Candace, a Gen Xer, and my lovely co-host is Mikkel, who is a millennial Gen Xer on the bubble. On this episode, we are headed to the front porch to talk about authenticity. So, Mikkel, who's joining us on the front porch today?
On the front porch today, we have Maya, Tamia, and Bo. Welcome to the front porch, y'all. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Would love for you three to introduce yourselves and let us know what generation you're a part of. Let's start with Tamia.
I'm Tamia Robinson, and I am a part of Gen Z, the youngest generation.
Not really. There's a generation after you, but
there's
a generation.
Youngest one in the chat.
On this
I'm Maya Washington, and I believe I'm also Gen Z. I was born in 1998.
Oh, yes.
I'm Bowen, and I am elder millennial.
Welcome. I'm an older millennial too, Kenneth. I don't know why you threw that Gen Xer thing.
Oh, did I say X?
You did. You said I'm a millennial on the cusp, Gen Xer. I'm just an older millennial. I'm just older. I'm not straddling. I'm just older millennial.
Well, we get you to come on over here with us.
Well, before we jump into this much needed conversation, I cannot wait to hear just the gems that you all will share. We have something called the rapid fire round. And for this round, whatever comes to mind first, we ask that you share that. So here is the question for the rapid fire. Is there a character in a movie, book, or a television show that best resembles your life? And if so, what's the character or who's the character?
Louise from Bob's Burgers.
I would probably say Olivia Benson from Law and Order Special Victims Unit.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Love Law and Order.
Like that. That's a good question. I don't know. I can't think that quickly. I don't watch a lot of TV anymore.
What about from a movie or from a book?
I did just read a book. In Every Mirror She's Black, and I would say that I definitely related to Kendi, the main character, the most. She had just moved to Sweden, and she was the head of a marketing firm here in the United States, and they decided to bring her over to help basically clean up this mess that they had made. They basically said something racist, and so they invited her over to head their DEI initiatives. And sometimes I kind of feel like I'm in that space in my corporate world now.
Okay. Kendi. What was the name of that book?
In Every Mirror She's Black.
In Every Mirror She's Black.
That's like a movie title waiting to happen.
Right?
I'm ready for the movie already.
Right. What about you, Candace?
You know, it's a toss-up. Sometimes I feel like it's a mashup of the characters from Waiting to Exhale. And then sometimes I feel like, depending on, the circle, that it's a mashup of characters from a different world. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the Golden Girls.
Right. Yeah.
I'm at that point.
Yeah. I can't say anyone comes to mind that resembles my life. I think what comes to mind is two characters that resemble like elements of my childhood. One would be just Punky Brewster, just how Punky Brewster saw colors in her room and innovation. And then Jessie from the Babysitters Club. She was the only Black babysitter. And just her story and going to a predominantly white Catholic school for my K-8 experience. Yeah.
Isn't that so interesting? Is it that art imitates life or the other way around? That's not really a question for this episode, but it's just something to think about.
Yes.
Thank y'all for that. That was really interesting. Some interesting characters and movies and ideas. I can see it. I can see it kind of happening. So let's go ahead and get into our discussion for today. So the first thing I think we want to know, what does it mean to you to live authentically? And how do you respond to your surroundings while you're trying to live authentically? So how do you, what is it? How do you define it? And then how do your surroundings kind of influence what you think about in terms of living authentically?
I would say, to me, living authentically is just living freely, like living unapologetically as yourself, living free and afraid from anyone else's judgment, and even freeing myself from my own self-criticism that tries to stop me from being who I am.
I think for me, sometimes authenticity comes in the form of like choosing happiness over safety. I think for a lot of gender diverse people, that choosing to present or live authentically comes at great cost. And so kind of really choosing the path of being your most authentic self does come down to, I need to be visible because other people need to see this life as possible.
Okay.
I agree with Bo and Tamia. I would say that living authentically would just be being your true self, not being scared of anyone else's opinions. I feel like a lot of people these days want to fit into this cookie cutter mode, and everyone's trying to be like everyone else. So being authentic is just being who you are, no matter who you're around and what anyone else really has to say about it.
How do you get there? I'm always curious. How do we actually, get to this place where we can say, I am unapologetically, authentically me. I'm free to be me in all of these spaces. I'm just always curious to, how do we get there? Or are we, is it just kind of this journey? Like maybe we're never exactly there, but we're always moving to get to that place.
I think it's a lot of choice. I think you honestly, it's choosing to be authentic on a day by day basis, and what that means sometimes moment to moment. I know that specifically for me, I mean, if you're overcoming, adversity, if you are trying to live authentically in a society that marginalizes your identity, that it's very revolutionary to choose to be very authentic and open and unafraid. And I think that takes a lot of bravery sometimes, even with ourselves, saying that, I'm here to take it as it comes.
Other thoughts? Bo, would you mind muting? We hear your kitty purring in the background.
No, he's yelling. He's yelling.
I definitely agree that it's a journey. As Bo said, every single day, every moment that you're in, you don't know how you're going to react. And sometimes being your authentic self isn't the way that you should be in that situation. So I think that it's just becoming comfortable with yourself and your feelings and your emotions. And also, it's situational at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain.
Something you said is striking, though, Maya. You said sometimes being your authentic self isn't best for the situation, if I'm quoting you right. Who determines that? Who determines when it's best for your authentic self to be fully present and when it's not best?
I think it depends. Sometimes you may be at work and you have a coworker that is frustrating you and you want to react like you would if you were at home with one of your friends. And you know that that's not the correct situation for that. And then you also need to have patience when you're at home and you want to just react the way that you would if you were at work or with your friends, and you just that's not the right reaction for that situation. So I think it's just situational factors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tamia, would you add anything to what was been shared?
Yes, I would say that I agree that it's a journey, because I believe that even the person, myself, who's sitting here right now, I'm still figuring out who I am authentically. And even if I'm 50, I will still be figuring out who I am authentically. Like, as you continue to live and as you continue to grow, you learn more about yourself so that you're able to share more about yourself to the world. So it's a daily journey that I feel like you can achieve that once you turn your mind off and turn your heart on.
Mm-hmm. That's a perfect segue around this thought of journey and grace for yourself and really grace for others. How have you all specifically been able to just like retain your peace and living as your authentic self while navigating a world that may or may not accept how you show up?
I've been writing for like a year, maybe more, on this kind of topic of which is healing. It's I mean, that's just plain as it is. It's healing. And I was thinking while Tamia was talking about, opening your heart, and that it's a daily journey and it's going to change when you're 50 years old. And to be honest, there will be things that will break you along the way and you heal back differently. And so one of my big movements in the past year has really been allowing myself time to grieve and to mourn and to hurt, because the only way out is through it. And so I think the process of retaining your peace is sometimes you have to get uncomfortable and sometimes you have to sit with the hurt. And then I think you get a little power back by maintaining that, this is my ground and I have conquered it and it hurt, but I'm newer and I'm better every time I heal.
That's powerful. Did you say the only way out is to go through it?
It's through it.
That's a word, Bo. That's a word right there.
Right. Where's the collection plate again? We need the offering tray to come around. That's it. I don't know that I've heard it put quite that way, but the covering of the things that we would prefer would just go away. That fester underneath and they don't really heal. And then we enter into all of these new situations showing up as this hurt, bruised person or broken even person. And yet we want to still be authentic, but we have all of these things that we haven't really addressed, or all of the hurt that we haven't really
And
dealt with.
if you look at it like a wound, if you've ever injured a part of your body, but you kept pushing and kept working and just kept like, okay, I know this hurts, but I'm just going to keep moving. You've exacerbated your injury. You've made it worse. And so sometimes the only way to heal a wound that's internal or emotional or mental is to kind of sit through the pain and rest and take care of yourself in whatever ways that are best for you so that you heal better.
Yeah. Yeah. Maya and Tamia, yeah. What are your thoughts?
I'm very religious, and so I keep my peace by continuously praying. I am in a lot of situations where I want to react a certain way because that's just my human nature too. But instead, I take a step back and I pray. And I also read a lot of Bible plans. I read the Bible often, so I know a lot of verses offhandedly to just get me through those situations and to maintain my peace, because I know that there are a lot of worldly distractions that are trying to take away my peace. And I know that I stay grounded in my word, and that's really just the only way that I know how to maintain my peace. That's the only thing that's been helping me thus far.
Amen, honey.
Yeah, I would like to build on top of what Maya just said. When your character, when your character will get tested, or when someone else tries to diminish it by throwing things to you that don't belong to you, I try to get into this content space where I can remind myself, one, who I am? How do I see myself? But even not just that, but how does God see me? And how does God describe me? Because if God can say that I was fearfully and wonderfully made and that I'm worth more than diamonds and that I'm precious, then who am I to let this person who has no control over my life make me feel like I'm small, that I'm worthless, that I don't deserve the things I have? So just trying to ground myself and find a safe space to remember who I am.
Yeah, I love that. You preaching now. The common thread of what you all shared is an anchoring, whether that anchoring is in the embracing the healing process, right? And the pain and the possibilities in the process, as Bo described, or anchoring in your faith, right? And your nourishment and tending to your spirit person is really paramount as you continue to navigate your authenticity in spaces where your authenticity is stripped or devalued or discounted or diminished or marginalized or oppressed. So very, very powerful. I had a life lesson last week of how to maintain peace while being frustrated. And I was spending so much time focused on other people and what they did or what they didn't do. I finally just asked God, show me me. Show me in the situation, like my error, my mindset that was closed off. So releasing myself from things outside of my control and focusing in on what I can control, me, was super helpful and navigating me, working through frustration while also maintaining peace. So
Did you find in that moment that you were kind of reclaiming something, or that authenticity maybe, or maybe it's even something else?
yeah, I did. So I asked myself 3 questions as I like went in on this, like, let me unpack and tend to my interior. I said, I asked if I can accept 3 things. I said, can you accept that who you are is intact before this situation happened and right now? And I answered yes. That how I saw myself wasn't shifted or marred based on the level of frustration I was experiencing.
Okay.
And then I said, can you accept that what you're experiencing is not personal? And I said, yes. And then I asked myself, could I accept if relationships shifted based on this situation? And the answer was yes. And acceptance doesn't mean it's good or bad. It just means an acknowledgement of what is. And
Mm-hmm.
that was super helpful for me. So yes.
I love it. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of wondering then, when is it that you feel like you are yourself? Like this is me. I'm in my element. I am me. I can unpack. I can undress it. I can unpack it. I can whatever. I am me. I am fully me in this moment. When do you all feel that? And then when do you feel like you're least yourself?
Mm.
I feel most myself when I'm on a stage.
Okay.
I've had to work up to that, like going from being nervous to scared to shaky. Then like I I feel I feel like I'm at home on a stage and that I'm able to express and let out my emotions and my thoughts. Like I just told this room full of people that I don't know all of my internal struggles, how I see myself, how I believe things that I'm trying to heal from still. So I would say that I feel most myself when I'm on a microphone.
It's great. I definitely feel most myself when I'm at home and with my family. They accept me despite everything that I think is wrong with me. So when I can be home, I've been working a lot this past year, transitioning into this new job, and over the holidays, just being back with my family, it felt amazing and it really fed my soul. So I'm definitely unapologetically me when I'm with my loved ones.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I think, and I think this is probably a pretty universal experience for queer people in that we kind of have to make our own families. We kind of have to choose people to be in our circle and to be our love and support. And so I have 2 best friends, and they are both named Chris. And my two Chris's, every time I write their name, it's Chris X2, because there's two of them. And I really feel like they have kind of been my safe space for at least like a good solid year. Things in my own personal family have been rocky, and they were kind of the place where it's like I can let my guard down and really be myself. Because I feel really empowered when I'm doing public speaking or when I'm doing facilitations and trainings. But I still feel like that is a costume I have to wear, that this is an identity I have to put on, especially with, having a gender diverse identity where it's like, I'm expected to look and present this way. So let me be this person right now or today. And so when I'm with my two friends, it's like, I don't have to pretend to be anything. And I don't have to like guard every single word where it's like, is everybody going to clearly understand me? And I don't have to like explain myself or my name or my pronouns or to just be really accepted by people and who are going to love you regardless of your good days and your bad days. It's just kind of really good to have a shelter in people like that.
I feel like I hear a lot of just honoring who you are, like whoever is in your circle, where you feel safe and comfortable. These are individuals who are honoring you. They are, you know, honoring your dignity. I mean, it's beyond just the. I feel like I belong here, and these people are, kind of acknowledging me and accepting me. But it's something about honoring who you are, where you are in that space, your dignity, respecting what comes into the space with you. You can take off the mask, right? You can just be you, and those are some beautiful spaces to kind of be in. Are there spaces where you all don't feel that? I know, Bo, you know, putting on the mask and then having to perform. You kind of talked about that a little bit, but are there other ways in which you feel least yourself?
Honestly, I think that I would feel least myself at work sometimes.
Mhm.
I mean, at least in the year that I've met, they're the only Black woman, and one of the very few women of color at my organization, or person of color for that matter. So sometimes I do feel like I have to walk in and I have to put this mask on and be who I believe will be accepted in these spaces.
Mhm.
A lot of the people that are at my job are also very experienced. They've worked there for 10 plus years. And sometimes I feel that I don't necessarily fit in. We actually had a training about fitting in at my organization a few weeks ago. And it's just different for me. I sometimes have to change the way that I talk. I dress a different way just so
Mhm.
that I am seen in a way that I feel like will be respected. And though I have the credentials that got me to the position, I still have to carry myself in a way that I feel like will be respected and accepted.
Yes. And I can totally bounce board off of that in that at my current work, given the conservative evangelical area that I live in, I am very much expected to present as female every day, regardless. And that is the person who's expected to show up. And so I feel like at my current position that I'm currently leaving, one of my big motivators was I do all of this training for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and I don't feel like I belong here. And I really thought that was such a wake up call for my own authenticity. It's like, if I am going to truly believe in the work I do and continue to pursue that, I want to take a good hard look at myself. And it's like, I don't belong here. So why am I staying here? And it kind of felt like I think I'm seeing clearly for the first time in a long time and wanting better for myself and kind of being able to go to a place that my pronouns will be used, correctly. That my name is correct, and that I'm not expected to present in a certain way every day to make a room full of people who don't respect me happy and comfortable.
Mhm.
And so I totally get that, putting on the mask and walking in and being oh so professional, and maybe not feeling mutual respect in those areas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can name a specific place where I don't feel myself, but I don't feel myself when I'm around people who have expectations of who they want me to be and who they expect me to be. And sometimes that could look like family, friends, even close family and close friends, always feeling like I have this expectation that I need to meet in order to be loved and or accepted by you. I so sick of trying to prove to you that I am worth being loved. So I don't feel myself when I'm in a space, in an environment and with people who I'm not able to show up. I'm not able to show up as Tamia. You want me to show up as someone else. Like, I'm not. But I can't name a specific place that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a
Mm-hmm.
fit.
It's a feeling for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Maya, you, and shout out to anybody working in corporate America. Shout out to my impact clients who are part of corporate America. It's definitely a place that I would not fit in. I would remove myself from. But especially thinking about starting off in your career, right? And even Bo, as you're transitioning, right, to a new place. And to me, you're going to be navigating different spaces. What is your responsibility to like poke and say, hey, let me break through this status quo. Like, hey, there's only 3 Black folks here. And we're trying to conform to your whiteness and it's uncomfortable. Like, so what is the responsibility that you all have, or you think you should have, in dismantling some of that smog that forces people to conform and wear the mask and be performative and talk a certain way and dress a certain way to fit in?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is. I think that, at least for me, I now have that seat at the table. I feel like I just being able to have the position that I'm in, I have been invited to be myself. So not all the time do I think that it's more so what is expected of me versus what I feel like is expected of me in these spaces. I would say that my personal responsibility would be to not walk into work feeling like I have to code switch and to not be scared to speak and say how I feel. I'm actually on the committee for diversity, equity, and inclusion at my job. And I'm the only person of color on that committee, which I saw that there was a gap there. And though that's not really something that I would usually do, I felt led and inclined to apply for that position so that I could have my voice in those conversations that are impacting students and professionals and everybody that comes on our programs, that I'm actually given that diverse point of view. So I think that it's our responsibility to speak up and speak out. Like, I believe Tamia said that she doesn't like being in places where she can't speak up. And so I think that my responsibility is to speak up and say what's on my mind and not feel like I have to conform to these spaces because that's how everybody else looks. Like I said before, being in that cookie cutter mode, I shouldn't try to fit myself into a mold that I know I would never fit. Like, realistically, I can't change the color of my skin. I can't change the texture of my hair. I can't change the way that I talk. I can, and even if I do try to, that's not going to dismantle all of the deep rooted issues that are there if I just continue to be what they're expecting me to be, or even what I expect them to expect me to be.
Mm.
That part.
Yeah, I think you have to learn to work within systems as well. And, after having been at my institution for several years, I kind of started finding ways to regain ground, even when it wasn't provided a space. I was on several committees where I was kind of chosen because I was the gender diverse option, or I was the queer person who would. And I think a lot of marginalized communities take on the work of DEI when it should really be very co-opted. But like one thing, it was finding what they can ignore. So one of my things is, I love DEI work, and not being a person of color, but trying to advocate for people of color. I saw an issue in a program, and I was like, you realize that we are like 99.99% white in this program, and I want to know why that is, because we start in recruitment very diverse, and we lose that. So I did all this research, and I authored an assessment, and I gave the assessment to a bunch of students. I got some other colleagues in DEI work to help, and was kind of able to take like, hey, this is like accreditation level data. Like this is something an accrediting body would look for. So like really get on where they can't ignore it. It's like, okay, I have the data, I have a report, ingratiating myself to a couple different committees where it's like, hey, this is the research I've done, this is the data I have. It's kind of like playing the game. And I think that there are going to be a lot of times in like my career and in others' careers where it's like, okay, I want to make change and I have a desire and a passion to, but I'm having to play the system. I'm having to beat them at their own game.
I think I took this question a different way, but I would say a responsibility for being my authentic self is making sure that the kid in me stays alive. Because I try to remind myself that I don't want to ignore or disappoint little Tamia. Like seeing the world as a kid, like you can remember it so vividly, even if that's not how it looks now. Like believing in unicorns, favorite color being pink, and glitter and dancing and singing everywhere. I try to keep those traits alive in me so that I take with me every year of age that's still within me, and I try to show up as every version of myself that's the same person.
To me, you're such an old soul. I feel like you've been here 2 or 3 times before. I love it. It's so interesting as you guys were talking. It made me think about a lot of things. One, just the performative ways in which we are just in all of these different spaces. But then the idea that even within spaces where we are working, living, playing, loving, having life or experiencing life, that when we come up against a system in many ways, not at all, but definitely in many ways, we're making choices about how we engage within that system, how we are navigating within those systems so we can disrupt whatever's going on within those systems. And just, I think about that a lot because I think sometimes I see like the external stuff, right? So we're trying to change all these things externally, and there's always a wall. Not always. There's a lot of times there's a wall or there's some kind of barrier. But then when we figured out the negotiation or how we can navigate within this system, I almost wonder, does that make it easier, or is it to make it easier for us to kind of disrupt what's actually happening because now we're in these spaces where we've navigated, we know what we need to do, say, so that we can continue to be in that space and try to be our authentic selves and try to do the work around DEI. It's just always an interesting, some interesting thoughts and insights there in how we work in these spaces and still try to be authentic to who we are, but also disrupt what's going on.
I think they're one and the same, right? Like depending on the nature of your work, I have the sense that on the front porch right now, we're a bunch of agitators and folks that want to advocate and realize the stories of people's lived experiences and what people are actually facing and where the mask that people are wearing. So we are advocators. That is part of our authentic self, right? Crusading for justice. But to what Bo said, right? It's how do you navigate those systems, right? To, in a way, placate those that are in power making the decisions, while also having a seat at the table,
Mm-hmm.
Maya said, and where could you infiltrate? And connected to what Tamia said, how do you retain a sense of joy as an act of resistance?
Yep.
So it's a
I love
combination
it.
of all the above.
It's work. It's good work, but man, it's a lot of work sometimes.
Listen,
Which is why you have to retain your peace.
Right.
Going back to the other question. Any other thoughts you all want to add there? Before we move on?
I'm good.
Is there a moment or maybe a story, a person perhaps that reminds you of who you are, even when maybe you didn't believe it in yourself?
I for sure have a person.
Okay.
I'm going to get sappy about this, but I've had a lot of really great students who I think have really shown up in my life as like these lessons and these things I needed to learn. And my child, my kiddo, is named Alex, and they came into my life at just a time where I needed to see like real authenticity. And that was Alex. I mean, Alex was all sunshine and was totally secure in who they were and did not care who became uncomfortable because of their presence. And they were loud and joyous, and it just, having them in my life made me really assess who I was and how long I had been suppressing who I really was. And it was suddenly like, I should have had that life. I should have been proud and out. And I was never loved and accepted. And I never took chances the way Alex did. And so getting to really nurture them like over 2 or 3 years, they jokingly called me mom. And I told everybody they were my child, and kind of being able to watch somebody fully embrace their identity and to just experience joy and not care. They're like, oh yeah, I will wear a rainbow tutu to class, and I do not care what anyone thinks, what anyone says, because they just were so sure of themselves. And so having Alex, even now, still in my life, they've had to move away, but just get to stay in contact. Every time it's like I need a little reassurance that there is hope and faith in bettering humanity, and I have Alex.
Oh, shout out to Alex.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I know I almost started to cry. I was like, okay.
I want to agree with Bo that I have a person. I don't have an Alex, but I have a Mikhail, and it's my godmom that she mentioned earlier. But when many times that I felt unsure in my identity and in my purpose, and come on now, don't get emotional. Okay. And many times that I felt unsure and insecure in who I was, she was just always there to remind me, even if in the moment I didn't believe it or couldn't receive it. She was always there to like, go look in the mirror. Like, are you really saying that you can't wear your natural hair out or you can't feel beautiful without braids in? Go look at yourself right now. And even not just telling me and reassuring me of who I am, but just watching Mikhail live so freely in who she is. So that's definitely my person who helps me to live authentically by living authentically herself.
Bless you. Love you, Marsh. That's sweet.
I would say the Tasha Cobbs Leonard song, You Know My Name. That is, I first heard that song when I was in college, and I was just going through a lot trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And my name is Maya, but it's spelled Mia. Well, it's a lot of people like pronounce it as Mia. So that song really resonated with me because it reminded me that God knows my name, even though I'm on a earth in a world where people mispronounce my name all the time. He knows my name and he knows me deeply. He tells me that I can literally move mountains. And sometimes when I feel like really down and I know that life is just trying its hardest to get me down, I remember that God has placed me here for a better purpose and a better reason, and that I can literally do anything and everything. And as Tamia said, his word says that I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. So knowing that he knows who I am personally, it always uplifts me. And so I love that song.
Yes. Yes.
Mikhail, what about you? Do you have a story, a person, or a moment?
I do. My mom and dad come to mind because they spoke greatness into me long before I ever saw it or believed it. My mom would always say, Mikhail, you could lead that. You could do that. My dad was always like, you're tough, you're strong. Even to this day, my mom, the things that she says to me now at 40 are the same things she said to me at 4. And even my therapist will say the same thing that my mom has said. I'm like, well, you don't even know me like that. So really my parents sowed those seeds, and then through being a teacher, students just, they water it. Young people water it. Like Maya knows, child. Or like on my worst days in the classroom, it was still like, you're Miss Oliver on my worst days. So having people in your life that speak into you is powerful. And for anyone listening who says, I don't have a Alex, or I don't have a godmom, or I don't have a Tasha Cobbs song, and I don't have even a relationship with God, use your own voice to speak into yourself. Even if you don't believe it, even if you're hurting, use your own voice. You're here, you're living, you're breathing, you have an assignment on your life. Use your own voice to speak into yourself, and find community if you can.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That community is so important. Even if we make it ourselves, find the people. Find the people. They're there. They're out there.
Yeah.
It's on live to find them. Yeah.
What about you, Candace? Is there a moment?
So okay, there are people. You know, there are multiple people for sure. But I think about a moment. There was a moment that has clearly stood out to me, and this clearly stayed with me, I should say. And I've actually told the story a few times and I won't tell the whole bit, but running into a teacher in college, one of our professors, when we were being loud, abrasive, completely off the chain college girls in the grocery store, just loud for no reason.
For no reason.
Trying to figure out, are we going to get the chicken ramen noodle or the beef ramen? It was just loud and obnoxious for no reason. And she was on the other aisle, and we ran into her. And that moment stopped me in my tracks, because she said to us, remember who you are representing, yourself first, your family, your university, blah, blah, blah. I mean, because y'all, we were real extra that day. Just didn't even care who was around us. And that moment stuck with me, because you are representing yourself first, whoever that self is. And so how you're showing up in your skin, in yourself, in your body, in your spirit, and whatever, that's going to come out. I mean, it is who you are. And so just being true to that. So that always stuck with me.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit, how do you all think school experiences, specifically like K-12 school experiences, either help or harm the way children see themselves? And what should schools consider as it relates to authenticity and just identity affirming experiences?
I think schools they often try to make you all the same. It's not much room to be yourself, and that can be as small as wearing uniform. Like, I know it's who you represent, unity, a community, all that good stuff. But self-expression, fashion is a form of self-expression, or even just having us raise our hand, or it's just so many small confinements that schools try to put you in. Just as Maya was saying, cookie cutter frames. That's exactly what it feels like. We feel like cookie cutter frames and factory workers. It's just so much, it's so little space to be yourself in a school. Because if you don't meet their expectations or be who they see you, who they want you to be, then it's like, okay, we're gonna break down who you are so we can build you up to who we want you to be, whether that's good or bad.
Wow. Wow. What's your recommendation? What's one recommendation you put forth to all K-12 systems in the United States?
Listen to your students. Listen to your students. Even I try to remind myself this listening to my 7-year-old nephew that he has things to say. But it's like, listen, actually take the time to listen and understand your students instead of you're being disrespectful. Why are you talking back? Who said that you could speak? Just listen. Close your mouth more and open your ears. I mean, yes, close your mouth and open your ears.
Well, I kind of do. That's kind of my area of research is student identity development, and so all of the research and all of it really breaks down to schools reinforce these societal standards that have absolutely nothing with flourishing a student's identity and their development. I know specifically where we live in the world, Candace and I, that they pass laws that tell us what we can do in classrooms and what we can teach and what words we can say. When that genuinely stifles development. And I know, like, for my own personal identity, I make a joke a lot, but I'm very, very serious about it, that I was not able to learn that I was gay until I was 18 and in college, and in a college class, because of the environment I was raised in and the education that I got, where it was that is not spoken about. Gender identity and expression is not a topic at all, even in college classes at this point. And you weren't expected to do any self-discovery. It was, okay, we educate you to pass a test. You pass that test, and then you leave our school. And I think there are so many educational systems across the world that do it a lot better. And I think we could really take a lot of stock in what our students have to say. Just like Tamia was talking about, I'm like, they know what they need. They know the enrichment that's required. If we could put so much more time into not testing them, into truly listening to them, I think we could have such a healthier relationship with education and within educational systems.
Say that one more time for the teachers in the back.
I want to get on a soapbox so badly, but I'm not going to.
I feel you.
Sorry, I completely agree with what Tamia and Bo are saying. Schools definitely do need to listen to their students. I think that, as Tamia also said, remembering that inner child, and I think that schools just want you to develop at a certain pace and end up being someone that is more standard, and they really stifle that creativity at a young age. They just want to test. They want to know what you can they want to know your knowledge to their certain levels, and they're not really catering to the actual interests of those students, not letting them be creative. I do remember when I was younger, though, I had amazing teachers like Miss Oliver, and we would have we would learn things and songs and just create express ourselves in different ways. And I think that a lot of different schools do not allow that expression. So I think that schools definitely need to listen more to the students and what their wants and needs are, because it starts off at a young age. And when students are in school and they're so used to being told what to do, what to say, and what certain benchmarks are, that leads on to your adult life where you're so used to seeking validation from certain people. And yeah.
You sure? You
I'm
sure you
about
want
to
to stop
start
it there?
writing.
I feel like you got more gems. You sure you want to stop it there?
I think that's it for now. Yeah.
You're on a roll. I'm like, okay, yep.
Yeah,
mhm,
like go
and
on
that
and
too,
say it.
Getting
and that too.
passionate.
Yeah,
Can I add on to what Maya said before we close this school discussion?
go ahead.
While she was speaking, it just really reminded me of how we're getting taught to be adults. It's like even in a 5th grade classroom, I'm getting taught basically how can we use you in society to work in our systems? Like
Mm.
how can we
Mhm.
teach you how to be a worker and not a person?
Yeah.
That's what school always, I'm like, why am I getting taught how to be 40 and work in a desk job that I hate instead of expressing my creativity?
Mm.
But that's just what I thought.
Yeah, because you're a Black girl in a predominantly Black school. And that's not for all schools that look like that. That's not for all schools that look like that. I won't get on my soapbox, Candace,
I was
for
about to
formation
say,
in public school and what it was for, but that
yeah.
college and career ready is for essential workers.
And tracking
Yeah.
and all of those things. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna go. I'm not.
Yeah. Let me stop. Let me
I'm
stop.
going to restrain
Don't stop
myself.
Now don't stop. If stopping means you're stopping yourself from being your authentic self, then let it out.
Yeah.
We'll be here for 5 more hours. So,
I'm gonna be respectful. The host is working on me.
I think you guys have touched on this already, but I just want to just give a little bit more time and maybe some opportunity to unpack like some of the messages that you've received from other people that you connected with, or maybe messages about who you were and how you should show up in the world that you may have disconnected from how you see yourself.
Wow.
I mean, I think there's just a lot of pressure that comes from people who've kind of been there, done that. I know that I come from a family of educators, and so my mother and my sister and I, but we all chose different levels. And my mother did special education, my sister does elementary education, and I went straight to higher education. And so I think there has been a lot of growth and change in the world of education since my mother went through college, and even since my sister, who is older than me, and then myself. And having this kind of idea, this is how you should present yourself, and this is how you should speak, and this is how you should work within a system, and that you don't have a voice here. You just need to keep your head down and do the work and go home because you got to pay your bills. And when I was at a time in my life where I wanted to challenge and fight and move forward and progress, I feel like there were a lot of people, not just the family educators that I have, but people within my college and my system, people who genuinely do care about me, but they were just wanting me to keep my head down and to keep moving. And kind of one of my best things about myself, and it's the one thing that with all of the things I have going on, is that I've kind of always had this really strong moral compass. And it's just like, I know what is right, and I don't care if every single person tells me it's wrong. I know this is right, and I will fight for it. And so kind of having all these people who are trying to extinguish that over time, I feel like was chipping away at who I was as a person. And it took having one person in my life to say, absolutely do not stifle that. That is your gift, and you need to feed that flame and to keep pushing forward. But I think that there were just so many people who are so conditioned to keep your head down that it was expected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to build on top of that keep your head down subject. It's similar to a sentence that I've heard repeatedly throughout my life, is that you're too much, or you talk too much, or you think too much, or you're doing too much. It's always just too much. And being in spaces where you're on a higher intellectual level than everyone else around you, even the adults around you, like I'm sorry.
I love it.
I'm
Yes.
sorry that was forced on you. I'm sorry that
Mm.
your life is built upon small thinking, but don't push that onto me.
Mm.
Don't push that onto me,
Mm.
because maybe I'm not too much. Maybe you're not enough.
Yes.
So true.
Exactly.
I know.
Yes.
She's 14, everybody. She's 14.
I have faith
Mikhail,
in the future. Let me tell you, I have faith in the future.
Mikhail, just go ahead and give us the benediction right now.
Yes, I'm definitely going to build on what Tamia just said. My mom has always told me to be who I am, and she is her unapologetically. My mother doesn't care what space she's in; she's always going to be Monica, and I've always admired having her to look up to, because she's just a great person. And like Tamia said, I'm not doing too much, you're not doing enough. And that's the attitude that my mother has told me to always have. And that's the way that I'm supposed to carry myself, as though who I am is enough. It's not too much, it's not too little. Everything that I have to bring to the table is worthwhile, and that I have to always know who I am, and to not be scared of other people's opinions, and to just not necessarily figure out who I am, but know who I am and whose I am. So
Yes.
Trying
Shout
to
out to
escape
Monica.
fear. I'm sorry. Did I cut you off, Mick?
I was just shouting out Monica,
Oh.
my mom. Say your line, your bar.
Not bar. But this is just making me think of trying to escape fear, and it's not always going to be your own fears, but it can be parents' fears that's put on you, siblings' fears, teachers' fears, just anyone's fear. This world, this entire society, community is built upon so much fear that you're afraid to be different. So just letting go of fear.
How would you suggest anyone listening right now who is paralyzed by fear and who they are? What suggestion or word of encouragement would you give them?
You're only afraid of the unknown because it hasn't happened yet. So make it happen. Is what's the worst that can happen? That's what I would say. And advice that Mick, you've given me, when I'm scared and when I feel small, just remember how big your God is, and that nothing is impossible for him. So nothing is impossible for me.
Yeah. Bo or Maya, any additional advice or word of encouragement for anyone listening who is paralyzed by fear and who they are?
I'd say the only limits that you have are the ones that you place on yourself, and you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
I think, especially for anyone who is of a queer identity, that sometimes we hide so much because we are so afraid, because we've never seen it happen before. We've never seen someone like us doing something great or moving forward, and I think that's exactly why you should. I think that's one of my biggest reasons for living authentically is someone needs to see me do this. Someone needs to see me do this so they can too.
Yeah. What about you, Candace?
I think going back to the origins of, go back to the beginning. Go back to the origins of where it started for you. What is it? What was that thing that got you excited, that made you feel, gave you energy, gave you like, go back to that feeling, and see where that feeling leads you. Because I think sometimes we just in spaces just stifle that, right? It's like, no, 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 you can't do that. You can't, and we do it to ourselves. So if we can go back to the origins of where the joy started, or where maybe it began to get a little shaky, and see if you can recapture some of that.
I love it. I love it. As we move to a close, this conversation has been so nourishing. What would you three say is the best thing about being you?
No one else is me.
Yeah.
The best thing about me being me is that I'm an original.
Mm,
I can't be copied. I wasn't made like anyone else, and no one else is made like me or will be.
one of one. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. Nobody else can be me, and that's my superpower is that I am me.
Mm.
With my long hair.
I don't know what the best part of me is yet.
Mm.
I think I'm still figuring it out. Um, I feel like I've really been on a journey this past year to get to a really good place, and I feel like I'm finally getting there.
Mhm.
And I've been very open to change and to growth and to healing, and so I don't think I'm there yet. But I think the fact that I'm always willing to grow and improve is probably pretty great.
Yeah. How do you think you would know, Bo? If you know that you're not there yet, how do you think you will know when you are there?
I think I'll know if everybody else can see it too. I feel like I've spent so much of my life hiding and hiding who I am and who I really am and trying to protect it. And I think now that I've finally really kind of come into my own, and just the amount of change I've been able to do in a year, I remember saying to somebody the other day, I'm like, I'm just trying to have more fun. I'm trying to have more joy and peace and fun. And they said, that's really big for you. They said, you haven't really been in that place yet where you were moving past grieving, because I felt like I spent so much time grieving and hurting. And it's like, it's good to know that, you're there, you're at that point. And so I think other people are starting to see it too.
Yeah. That's such a blessing that you have people in your life that see you and have seen you at so many different stages and can
Mhm.
speak to your visibility and your growth. That's a treasure.
Yep, absolutely. So we are kind of at the end of the Front Porch Podcast. Wah. I know. Um, but we do not want to leave this episode without sharing how people can follow you all. How can folks get in touch with you?
For all my public speaking engagements, I have an Instagram account that is purely a professional Instagram account that is at b.e.hendricks. And then for anybody who is looking for connection, for training, for future education, for just wanting to keep up with what I am doing, I have a professional email that's where all of those requests go to, and it's my full name. It's Bowen, BOWYNERINHENDRIX @gmail.com.
We will make sure that's all in the descriptions and the comments.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Maya.
Oh, I was going to say another way of protecting my peace is not being on social media. The only social media that I do have is LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn name is Maya Washington, MIA.
Awesome. Maya, any projects or anything that you want to drop or share for people to go to your org site or anything like that?
Oh, I do work for an international organization, and we have an arrangement of programs, whether you're a professional, a student, a teacher. We have a lot of programs for you to study abroad and get that experience in a lot of different cultures. So,
Awesome.
AmericanCouncils.org.
And I have an Instagram account. It's just full of me. You may see poetry, you may see jokes, quotes, just different versions of me expressing myself. And it's at officialtamiarobinson.
What about you? Any projects or anything you want to drop for people to check out?
Not at the moment, not yet.
Kids Can Be Big? No?
We don't have it up officially yet.
Okay. When it is, we'll link it. Awesome.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us on the Front Porch Podcast. It has been wonderful. You all have been insightful. Thank you all again for joining us and for sharing your wisdom with the audience. We will make sure that all of your handles and social media accounts and ways in which people can connect with you are in the descriptions when we post the show. So thank you all so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.